We're here now, though. We're here now. We're getting it started. We're trying to get some streaming feng shui. Welcome in. Come on with it, yeah. Come on with it here as we try not to dilly nor dally. Let's see. Let's get this going up over here. Welcome in. Oh my. Welcome to Planet Funkatron. I'm Captain TC Pool. We're on a magical planet. A tiny magical planet. This is a very unique stream based in a multimedia, lore-driven fantasy world with wizards, orcs, and spaceships. Built-in VR, free-to-play PC game, card game, books, characters, our website, and our new tool, the World Forge 3D. Dun, 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 dun. Bum 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 bum. Let's check it out a little bit here. Yes, welcome. You're looking at the Drunken Dragon, part of the makeshift video game virtual world experience thing that I've built. What's happening, Nathaniel? Let me turn my microphone up a little bit. There we go. Now I'm even crispier. The Krispy Kreme. But I'm lacking one key element. The explosion sound. Do I got it? What? There we go. That's what I'm talking about. What song is this what we're listening to? Get this out of here. Okay. Let's get it. This is also part live anime. I know. It's a very strange stream. Mm-hmm. Try to make you laugh? No, you make me laugh. You're in my world now, Grandma. Come on in. We're just chilling here. We're just chilling here next to the Unfortunate here. Aha. What? Wait a sec. Wait a sec. Aha. I know what I must do now. Maybe this works. Negative 40 and negative 40. Damn. Now we'll see. Yes, perfect, perfect, perfect. That's a good song too. Yeah. KPP 101.
The Quiet Storm.
Why is everything so loud? I'll turn that shit down.
I got it in the palm.
Do you remember when you and I went buck wild? Do you remember the time? Do you remember when you and I went buck wild? Do you remember the time? Do you remember when you and I went buck wild? Do you remember the time? Do you remember when you and I went buck wild? Do you remember? Do you remember? I was in a trance, and it sure was a time. We said until me, do you remember the time? You and I went buck wild. Do you remember the time? Do you remember the time? Now we went buck wild. Do you remember the time?
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, I was drinking my noodles. Some of those sweet. Wait. You're dead, you passed away. This song is in the Drunken Dragon world, but only if you slip up and fall in the water. You'll end up in the Great Yawn, the afterlife of Funkatron. Dead noob's delight. Let's check in with Nibblesworth. Nibblesworth is the engine of the TC Falcon. Without him, we're nothing. Every bit of support we take in and we buy this intergalactic feed that's got that meets every nutritional requirement that Nibblesworth has. It's superfood form, if you will. Man, this curry is hot. So yeah, Nibblesworth. Excuse me. A little under the weather, I think. Maybe I'm fighting a little something. April, May. Our news affiliate at KPP 101 and the Falcon 5 News. Where a noob like you deserves to be. But me. Now you're stuck with old me. Old Pappy. Alright, let's check out now our versions here. Yes. Curry, so good. Cup of noodle curry. The dead noob's delight. You're dead, you're dead, you're dead. Oh, you're dead, you're dead, you're dead. You're dead, you passed. It's hot. Streaming makes me hot. Okay, give me a good jam. So the map to Globe Tool, we got the free version and the Patreon version, new Patreon version out. This is a tool that lets world builders create their own solar system, so to speak. And you can put your map right on the planet.
I will go buck wild if you went buck wild with me tonight.
This is the song. This is the.
We'll go buck wild with delight. Old Pappy found you. I couldn't believe it was you. That's when I went buck wild all the longest time.
There's our planet. Hidden by the my favorite things. Alright, yeah, y'all. Don't hear so bad. Look at this beautiful, beautiful bean footage. Yes, look at this shit. Flat map, baby. Oh my lord. Awesome, now we can start adding pins. And more of the backstory. Oh my god, we're gonna have so many pins. But you know what we need? Me! Over here. Drinking mid-brew. There we go. Fit right in. We fit right in here, Airy. What's this? Oh shit. Way too big. Mm-hmm.
Nice, nice, nice. The Daily Brill.
The daily bro. But you're not. But now you're not moving. Oh, interesting.
Oh, that's right.
Ah. Test now, we testing. No? Ah. Let's try this out here. Yeah, we got that KPP 101.
KPP 101.
You're listening to KPP 101, The Quiet Storm. Autumn in the Funklands.
The Quiet Storm.
Yeah, KPP. The Quiet Store now. We're a little hot. Now our mic's hot, baby. Good. Good. I'm having to do a little OBS feng shui. Da 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 da. Nice. Now we're back. Back and better than ever. Quebec, Quebec. Quebec, 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 Quebec. I'm Casey Kasem. And my microphone's too hot. Really need more compress. Whatever. We're gonna check to see if this is working. Hey, yeah, baby. Okay, PP101, we should just check out the full Tales. Oh yeah, I forget it's got that OD thing going on. We'll try to catch it before it gets too loud here.
Tales from the Funklands. Act 1. The Crumbling Keep. Far in the southern reaches of the Funklands, there rises a lonely fastness of stone and sorrow, its towers clawing at the sky like the fingers of a sleeper caught in nightmare. Men call it Brangus Castle after the lord who keeps watch within, yet older names whisper still along the wind that skirts its ramparts. On certain nights, when the moon Vreza looms crimson over the plains, the walls seem to bleed, and travelers hasten past with bowed heads, eager to leave both keep and memory behind. Upon one such night, a hush deeper than sleep wrapped every court and corridor. Torches guttered in their brackets, and each flame shivered as though fearing its own light. Along the western walk there once grew a hedge of white roses, but sickness had entered their veins. Now the blossoms blackened where they clung, petals curling inward until they cracked and drifted down like flakes of soot. In the courtyard beyond, a fountain of pale marble stood empty, save for drifts of gray dust that hid the likeness of a mermaid carved upon its bowl. Even the water had fled these halls, finding kinder soil beyond the castle gates. Within the Hall of Echoes, Lord Brangus sat upon a throne of jet and bone, cloaked in iron-colored mail. His helm rested at his feet, for a warrior feels the weight of years more keenly when no battle stirs, and though his shoulders were broad, the mantle of silence pressed upon him. He listened, not for words, but for the beating heart of his realm. What he heard was frail and faltering. Somewhere below, in the twisting vaults about which even the oldest charts spoke seldom, the castle itself was sighing, as if each stone remembered brighter songs now lost. The stewards dared not disturb him save one, and that one feared no watchful gaze but his own reflection. Dirty McCringle, gaunt as a winter crow and twice as clever, slipped between torch shadows with a bundle clutched beneath his patched cloak. He paused at the threshold, bowed low, and held the bundle out. A fragment of parchment peeked from the folds, its ink the color of dried blood. "My lord," he murmured, voice sweet as spoiled wine. "I bring tidings from the villages of Evermist Gap. The malady they name buck fever grows bolder, and the folk cry for aid." Brengus's eyes, pale and hard as new forged steel, lifted from dreaming distance. "Aid," he echoed, tasting the word. "Have we not sent herbs and healers countless times?" "The healers sicken in their turn," McCringle replied. "The herbs wither in their pouches before they cross the fields. Yet there is lore that speaks of darker roots. If we would carve the rot away, we must first know its name." He unfolded the parchment then, revealing lines of quavering script, symbols that crawled like living worms across the page. Brangus recoiled a breath. "That is no lore drawn from our libraries." "The naughty book of secrets is large," said McCringle gently. "Pages wander." He smiled, showing teeth like broken chalk. "This scrap speaks of casting veils upon the land, veils that feed upon fear and bloom into plague. If such a veil has been woven over Funkatron, we may yet unmake it." Brangus frowned. Somewhere deep within the stone, a low tremor stirred, a sound like distantly rolling drums. "Fetch the High Alchemist upper," he commanded at last. "Summon what healers remain. We shall lift this affliction or perish in the labor." McCringle bowed again, yet a shadow danced behind his eyes. He tucked the parchment away, turned, and slipped into the gloom. As he passed along dim passages, he brushed his fingers over cold walls, and where his touch lingered, small runes flickered ember red, then sank again into stone. None saw his smile save the stones themselves. Morning crept unwillingly upon the castle. Pale light filtered through stained glass to spill across flagstones like sour milk. In the outer ward, soldiers gathered in uneasy silence, their mail dull, their banners limp. They bore news of villages emptied overnight, of cattle that wandered north with hollow eyes, of children who coughed petals black as coal. Whispers named the plague, a punishment for forgotten sins. Others spoke of a power older than any mortal throne stirring beneath the world. All fell still when Brangus walked among them, yet even he could not unburden their hearts. He could only promise that hope still lingered, thin but unbroken, within the vault of his will. High above the Bailey Tower, a rook cried once, circling before it flew eastward toward the Evermist Gap, where swirling fog dimmed the horizon. There, beyond sight of mortal eyes, lay the track that would soon bring a traveler of dwarf kind to these troubled halls, for tidings of need travel swifter than iron-shod boots. Yet on this morn, no such comfort was known. Only the hush, the blackened roses, and the silent thrumming of afflicted stone kept vigil with the lord of the keep. And in a chamber buried far beneath the chapel, McCringle unfolded fresh parchment, dipped his quill in ink blacker than night, and began to trace a circle of signs. With each stroke, the castle quivered. A breath of wind sighed through passages and extinguished 23 candles in the lower crypts. Above, Brangus lifted his helm and set it upon his brow, feeling once more the weight of iron and destiny. He did not know that a deeper weight had already been fastened to his heart. Thus the first chord of doom was struck in Brangus Castle, though its echo had yet to reach the ears of those who might answer. For now the roses withered on their stems, the villagers huddled in sickbeds, and the morning wore the color of ash. In the hush, a voice, too faint for waking ears, whispered from crumbling stone, "Seek the brew of awakening, or all shall fall to sorrow." So dawn passed into weary day, and day bent toward twilight. The torches waited to shiver again, the walls to whisper, and Vrisa to rise crimson upon a realm poised upon the brink. Act 2, the Thunder Brew's summons. Across the wide gray leagues that lie between Mount Boogie and the plains of Evermist, Gap there shuffled, stamping, and occasionally singing, a lone figure whose red beard flamed against the pallid morn. Lemmy Pemmy Thunderbrew, son of the Keg Lords and keeper of the Drunken Dragon's secret tap, had set forth at first whisper of Lord Brangus's need, for trouble is a keen draught, and dwarves of good heart will travel far to mend a spoiled brew. About his sturdy shoulders, he wore a cloak of waxed canvas, mottled by old soot and new road dust. On his back, he bore a casque bound with silver hoops and rune-etched staves, the chronicle casque, of which the oldest bar songs speak in awed refrain. Within its hollow slumbered no common ale but a cordial of memory, distilled drop by drop from tales long told beside hearth fire and helm. The land through which Lemmy trudged bore signs of sickness deeper than the scratches of autumn or the scabs of war. Grass lay flat where unseen feet had pressed it during the night, and many a thorn thicket stood stripped of leaf, as though a feverish wind had suckled its sap. At creekside huts he found doors barred and windows stuffed with rags soaked in vinegar, yet from within came the sound of coughing children and the soft weeping of their mothers. Once he raised his voice in greeting, offering draughts of thunder brew from a travel flask, but the folk shrank back, for word of plague makes even charity seem freighted with peril. So he went on, heart heavy under his keg, yet his stride never slackened. On the third evening, he glimpsed Brangus Castle across a field of frost-withered roses. The keep's highest tower gleamed pale within the dying light, but no banners fluttered upon its crown. Only great ravens wheeled there, silent and slow, as though watching for the world's last heartbeat. Lemmy felt the chronicle cask vibrate, not in fear, but in warning, for the vessel was forged to answer sorrow wherever it brewed. He pressed on, crunching petals that crumbled like charcoal beneath his boots. At the gate, a pair of guards met him. Their helms rhymed with the same black dust that caked the roses. They peered down doubtful visors. Yet when he spoke his name, their mien softened. For even in these shadowed days, the renown of Thunderbrew craft carried weight. With halting courtesy, they led him through passages lit by meager lanterns. The stone breathed cold about them, whispering drafts that smelled of damp archives and old grief. They brought him at last to the Hall of Echoes. There, upon the jet throne, sat Lord Brangus, helm-clad once more. Torches flared as Lemmy strode forward and bowed low. "Lemmy Pemmy Thunderbrew at your service, my lord, and at the service of all who dwell in sorrow." Brangus inclined his head. His eyes showed neither pride nor welcome, only a stern fatigue. "You have walked far. Speak quickly, for the hours hasten and my people fade." So Lemmy set the chronicle cask before the dais and with reverent care loosed its iron locks. A faint golden scent rose, sweet as distant harvest. "This vessel," he said, "was seasoned with the chronicles of many lands. A single sip can mend the mind's weariness, yet it is no idle cordial. Its virtue blossoms only where fellowship is not forgotten. If rot be eating the heart of your realm, my lord, then I beg leave to seek its root, else any draught I offer will prove thin." At these words, a shiver like a drawn blade ran through the hall. From behind, a pillar stepped Dirty McCringle, hands folded within sleeves, the color of dried blood. "Your concern does you credit, Master Dwarf," he said, voice purring over the flagstones. "Yet time is a luxury no longer poured in our cups. A potion compounded this very night might curb the buck fever before dawn. You carry skill and rare elixirs. Give them freely, and we shall speak of quests thereafter." Lemmy regarded him, noting the hollow beneath the steward's cheekbones and the quick, glimmering eyes that never quite met his own. "Brews brewed in haste oft brew ill," he answered, "and cures forced too harshly tend to twist what they were meant to heal. Let me first taste the water of your wells, tread the rose fields, speak with the sick, then shall I know how best to pour hope." McCringle's lips curled, yet he bowed. "As you wish. I will myself conduct you. The keep hides nooks even our lord forgets." Brangus, whose gaze had drifted to the shadowed arches, stirred. "So be it. Master Thunderbrew, my key and kinsman are at your bidding. Yet mark this, every hour the roses shed more black petals, and every petal is a life. Stand not on ceremony." Lemmy bowed once more. "I will stand only upon truth." Thus began a strange wandering through the corridors of Brangus Castle. McCringle led with slow steps, lantern held low, and behind came Lemmy, shouldering the chronicle cask, its staves faintly aglow. They passed chambers where scribes once bent over tomes, now fallen silent beneath mold-flecked scrolls. stables where steeds stamped restlessly, though their eyes were milk pale, chapels whose candles guttered in unseen draughts. In each place, Lemmy knelt, brushed the stone, and listened. He heard a tremor running beneath the masonry, a steady pulse like a distant drum muffled by earth, and from deep within the keep there drifted now and again a sighing note, mournful and half musical, as though somewhere a vast harp of bone had been plucked by weary hands. At length they came to a narrow stair corkscrewing down into gloom. The lantern's light slithered along walls slick with moisture. At the foot of the stair yawed a low archway, its lintel carved with symbols Lemmy did not know, though their curves sent prickles along his skin. Beyond lay a corridor, and down that corridor welled a smell of roses, sweet yet rank, like blossoms left too long in the grave. McCringle paused upon the threshold. "Few walk here," he murmured. "These vaults were sealed in the first days of Brangus's rule, for they burrow close to the castle's heart. Some say the stones remember every sorrow ever spoken within these walls, and sing them back in dreams." "Stones do more than remember," Lemmy replied. He lifted the cask from his back and touched its rim to the floor. Instantly a soft amber glow spread, bathing the passage in honey light. Words flickered across the lintel as though inked anew. "Seek the singing stone, for plague is the echo of pride." McCringle exhaled, the lantern trembling in his grasp. "Wizardry," he hissed, though with whether disdain or wonder Lemmy could not tell. "Lore," the dwarf corrected, eyes narrowing. He began forward, but the steward caught his arm. "Another path first," McCringle urged, voice low. "Come, let us look to the outer wards. The sickness creeps fastest there." Lemmy studied him and saw beads of sweat upon the man's brow despite the chill. Yet he nodded, hefted the cask once more, and allowed himself to be guided away. He had read enough riddles in ale foam to know that a straight road rarely leads to the deepest well, so they climbed again toward daylight. Yet though their feet ascended, Lemmy's mind sank downward, following that faint harp note into the unknown dark. There, he thought, lies the root of the rot, and perhaps a rose still unspoiled. He resolved that come what may, he would tread once more those sealed stairs, even should every torch gutter and McCringle himself bar the way. For the chronicle cask had tasted the air of that passage, and its runes now glimmered as if eager for a draught yet unpoured. Outside the wind shifted. From villages beyond the gates rose a new wailing, thin and desperate, borne upon wings of dust. Lord Brangus heard it from the high tower and clenched gauntleted fists. Night would fall soon, and with night the buck fever marched. Only a dwarf with stories in a cask walked between the kingdom and despair, and already the shadows of Brangus Castle were stirring like hands that reach to tip the vessel before the first drop may pass any mortal lips. Act 3, Shadow Stirring. Twilight stole across the Funklands, painting the sky in dusky indigos while thin stars trembled at the rims of oncoming cloud. Within Brangus Castle, the torches had been kindled, yet their glow seemed cowed, as if each flame feared to trespass beyond its iron sconce. Lemmy Pemmy Thunderbrew, sleepless since his arrival, stood upon a parapet that faced the ever-mist gap. Far below the outer walls, he saw movement along the north road. Dim lanterns bobbed like fireflies adrift on a sea of gloom. Presently the ward horns sounded and the gates creaked open. A modest train of crystal-lined wagons crept into the courtyard, wheels crunching over petals black as cinders. At their head rode Broby Gearson, third son of Old Man Gearson, short of stature yet broad of shoulder, helm plumed in forest green. Perched upon the high backboard of the first wagon hovered Bibi the Sprite, a mote of living dawn whose wings flickered emerald and gold. About them huddled farmers, millers, and ragged children. All bore the gray pallor of buck fever, yet none had surrendered to its final chill. Lemmy descended the stair 2 at a time. "Broby," he called, and the dwarf's greeting rang hearty against stone. Yet Broby's eyes held a shadow. "Evermist villages have emptied," he said quietly. "Folks speak of voices that drift through mist at night, calling them by name. Those who answer do not return." He set a hand on the haft of his axe. "The mist followed us here. See how the roses hush beneath it." Bibi fluttered to Lemmy's shoulder. Her glow, warm as hearth fire, pushed the gloom back a little, yet could not cleanse it. "Every mile the dark grew thicker," she whispered. "Something at the heart of these walls drinks the life from earth and sky, and it is growing thirsty." The refugees were guided into the lesser hall, where long tables once groaned beneath feast platters. Now they offered little more than crusts and thin broth, yet even that fare drew grateful murmurs. Lemmy filled a cup from the chronicle cask and pressed it upon a coughing child. A faint honey hue bloomed in the boy's cheeks, and his breath eased. Hope kindled round the benches like sparks leaping from tinder, though outside the wind moaned in barren rose hedges. Lord Brangus came late to the hall, helm removed, silver-streaked hair unbound. His gaze softened at sight of the refugees, then hardened again when he saw how wan they were despite the sprite light. McCringle slipped at his heel, eyes glittering, lips curved in a thin smile that never reached his cheeks. "These walls are stout," Brangus told the weary folk, his voice a tempered bell. "Rest here tonight and fear no wandering mist." Yet even as he spoke, the chandeliers quivered. From unseen corridors drifted a murmur, a chant in a tongue older than these stones, measured and breathless, like monks repeating a single unending petition. The sound seeped beneath doors and rang faintly in window glass. Children clutched their mothers, men gripped table edges. A hush fell. Bibi's wings flared brighter. "That is no mortal prayer," she breathed. McCringle bowed, unperturbed. "Only the wind through forgotten cloisters," he said. But Lemmy saw his fingers tighten about a parchment roll tucked beneath his sleeve. When the tumult passed, Brangus ordered heavy shutters barred and placed sentries at each threshold. Yet the chanting did not cease. It receded, then swelled again as if roaming the corridors, seeking a listening heart. That midnight Lemmy stole from his chamber, Bibi flitting ahead to guide him. Broby joined them, axe on shoulder, for where one Gearson treads peril, seldom lingers far behind. Together they descended to the vaults where hours earlier McCringle had turned him aside. The sealed lintel greeted their lamplight, its warning runes now smoldering a sullen red. They pressed on. A narrow passage opened into a cavernous crypt whose pillars leaned like drunken sentinels. Upon each pillar spiraled carvings of roses entwined with chains, and from every blossom trailed veins of black sap that seeped across ceiling and floor, converging upon a stone dais at the chamber's heart. There stood an ancient harp of bone, strung with strands that looked spun from moonlight. No mortal breath stirred the strings, yet they thrummed with the same chant that haunted the halls above. Lemmy's pulse quickened. "Here beats the hidden heart," he murmured. He lifted the chronicle cask. Its staves glowed bright amber, then dulled as though strangled by unseen roots. Broby traced a rune with his gauntlet. "These chains mock the Bean Warden's sigil," he growled. "Someone has twisted their lore." Bibi darted nearer, her glow bathing the harp. Where the sprite light touched, the bone darkened and cracked. Sour vapors hissed forth. The chant faltered, rose again, then split into discordant voices wailing in despair. Behind them a soft laugh echoed. Dirty McCringle stepped from shadow, lantern low, parchment unfurled in his hand. Symbols writhed upon the page like worms in loam. "Curious souls," he purred, "wandering where kings themselves dare not linger." Broby moved between McCringle and Lemmy, axe raised. "Your heel drips with plague sap, steward. Speak quick or be still." McCringle's smile widened. "I speak through others now." He lifted the parchment and sang a single word. The bone harp answered. Pillars shuddered, black chains writhed. From fissures in the floor rose figures clad in antique mail, visors sealed, roses of ash blooming across their breastplates. Their eyes glowed ember red. "Canker Knights," whispered Bibi, her radiance flickering. Lemmy uncorked the chronicle cask. Golden mist billowed, weaving a dome round the three companions. Where mist met chain, a hiss of pain rang out and fragments of rust burst into sparks. Yet the Canker Knights pressed forward, swords dripping black sap. McCringle retreated up the stair, chanting anew. Stone groaned overhead, dust cascaded. "Fight if you must," his voice echoed. "Every drop of hope you spend feeds the root beneath, and the heart will sing sweeter for your folly." With a cry, Broby hewed the first knight. Axe met, sap steel, showering sparks of green fire. Bibi shot upward, tracing circles of pure light that seared the air. Lemmy braced the cask upon his hip, splashing its brew against taloned gauntlets. Those touched faltered, yet each blow drained the cask's glow further. The chant of the harp rose into a shriek. Chains lashed from the pillars like living whips, striking at sprite and dwarf alike. A loop caught Broby's arm, dragging him toward the dais where sap pooled thick as tar. He gritted his teeth, but the fetter burned cold. Lemmy surged forward, slamming the cask upon the chain. Staves cracked, amber liquid burst forth in a sheet of golden rain. The chain recoiled, hissing, and Broby staggered free. Yet the chronicle cask lay split, its contents puddling upon the stones. The dome of mist guttered, dwindling. Silence fell. The Canker Knights withdrew into the gloom as if satisfied. The harp's voice sank to a low murmur, almost tender, crooning some lullaby of ruin. Bibi's light flickered weakly. "The cask is broken," she whispered. "Its stories bleed away." Broby clasped Lemmy's shoulder. "We live yet, and there are more tales in our lungs than in any barrel," he said grimly. "We must quit this place before it drinks our final breath." They turned, bearing the remnants of the cask, and climbed the stair. Above, they found corridors empty, torches dark. Somewhere distant, a bell tolled once, then ceased as if choked. The night smelled of roses turned to rot. When at last they reached the great court, dawn's first gray light seeped over the battlements. Lord Brangus stood alone beside the fountain's dry bowl, sword bare, eyes upon the horizon where clouds boiled black and bruise purple. He spoke without turning. "Something within these walls has awakened," he said. "I feel it drawing the breath of every stone. What did you find below?" Lemmy answered, voice rough. "Chains upon roses, a harp of bone that sings plague, and a steward who is no steward at all." He knelt, offering the shattered staves. "My cask lies ruined, yet hope is not wholly spilt. There is a deeper root, my lord, and we have cut only a thorn." Brangus closed his eyes, and for a heartbeat, the weight of ages bent his shoulders. Then he sheathed his sword. "This eve we ride the length of my lands," he said. "If rot be in the root, we shall hew to the core." Far above, ravens wheeled their wings ink strokes upon a storm-laden sky. The first breath of dawn carried with it a distant chorus, half song, half lament. Bibi shivered. Lemmy tightened the straps of his pack. Broby laid one hand upon his hammer haft. Somewhere in the vaults below, the bone harp whispered once more, a note like the cracking of ice upon a winter river, and the petals in the courtyard trembled, as though remembering what life felt like before the frost. Act 4, Revelations in the Vault. Noon passed like a swallowed sigh. Rain swept in from the west and drummed upon Brangus Castle so that the tower seemed lost in a shroud of falling silver. Within those echoing walls, Lord Brangus gathered Lemmy, Broby, and Bibi in a chamber seldom opened. The lanterns in that place were few, and their light behaved as if uncertain where it ought to linger, for the very air smelled of secrets long kept and ill at ease to be woken. "I have shown few this door," Brangus said, touching the handle of beaten bronze. "The gallery lies beyond. Once I walked there for strength, but of late the songs within have grown silent, and I fear the silence more than any cry." Lemmy bowed his head. "Then let us look together, my lord, for silence can hide either death or birth, and we must learn which." The door sighed open upon a spiral stair that wound far downward, deeper even than the crypt where the bone harp stirred. The steps were smooth with age, and faint runes glimmered beneath the grime, as if fragments of long-forgotten starlight had been caught in the stone and left to fade. When at last they reached the foot of the stair, a hall stretched before them broad as any throne room, though no pillar bore its roof. Instead, the vault above seemed woven of root-like arches that met and crossed in a lattice of pale stone. Between those arches hung vast frescoes, each a window upon another hour of the world. Bibi's light kindled brighter, and dust stirred from the floor as though greeting her glow. She flew close to the nearest painting, wings humming. There she beheld Lord Brangus in his youth, helm unscarred, sword raised against a swarm of smoke wraiths along the banks of Deeb Lake. The colors were strong, the lines unbroken, and a hush of awe fell upon them all. Yet when they approached the second mural, a chill crept into their hearts. The scene upon that wall showed Brangus lifting wounded sprites from wreckage set aflame by flame drakes, yet half the colors had drained away. The sky in the painting was a sickly gray, and where bright wings of sprite landsfolk should have gleamed, only pallid smears remained, and so it went. Each mural they viewed lay dimmer than the last, until they came to one near the farthest arch that was nigh erased, shapes barely guessed beneath a veil of ashen dust. In its center a shadow gaped, where once must have stood the Lord himself, but the figure was gone, leaving only a hollow outline that seemed to drink the lantern light. Brangus reached toward the wall, but his gauntlet passed into cold emptiness. He staggered back as though stung. "A thief of memory walks these halls," he said. "What sorcery feeds upon a man's very deeds?" Broby's hand found the haft of his axe. "Sorcery named Steward," he muttered. They pressed onward until the hall expanded into a circular vault. In its center rose a dais of marble, and upon the dais stood an iron tripod bearing a crystal basin. From the rim of that basin, thin streams of color trickled downward, hues drawn from unseen corners of the vault, flowing like water, yet shining like the fragments of a broken rainbow. Those streams met at the basin's heart, where the colors coiled into a dark whirlpool, then seeped through a narrow spout into a silver phial, clutched by a single figure. Dirty McCringle stood robed in crimson, parchment unfurled in one hand, the other steady upon the phial. Words in a harsh tongue dripped from his lips, each syllable striking the marble with the weight of iron nails. He did not turn when Brangus called his name, but the parchment brightened, sigils writhing as if alive. "McCringle," Brangus cried, voice ringing against the arches, "cease this plunder and look upon what you have wrought." Only then did the steward lift his head, eyes glittering green like glass, chilled in winter. "Plunder, my lord? I would say preservation." He raised the phial, and swirls of color eddied within, though the mixture had grown dim as smoldering ash. "These pretty paintings were rusting away long before I came. I merely gather what their stones can no longer guard. Power wasted is power lost." "The power is not yours to gather," Lemmy said, stepping forward. He steadied the broken staves of the chronicle cask at his belt. Relics now, but still marked by runes of comfort. "These memories belong to the land and to the hearts of folk who trusted this keep." McCringle laughed, a thin, dry rasp. "Do you imagine their trust will outlive them? Buck fever eats the flesh, then the mind, and last of all the deeds. When the final villager falls, who will recall noble Brangus of the southern marches? Only the steward who safeguarded such light, and I shall wield it as I please." At those words, the streams quickened. Colors fled the murals in ragged ribbons, and darkness spread behind them like ink poured into water. Brangus strode to the dais, sword drawn, but chains of blackened rosereed erupted from the marble, coiling round his limbs. He fought, yet the enchanted bonds clung like molten iron. Broby charged, axe flashing, and cleaved two coils apart. Lemmy hurled the remains of his cask. Splinters struck the basin's edge, and chips of crystal fell away. At once the whirlpool faltered, hues tumbling out like escaping birds. BB darted through the air, trailing sparks that seared the black vines. McCringle hissed a curse and thrust his parchment high. The sigils upon it flared, summoning a tide of gray mist. From that mist emerged the Canker Knights, silent and terrible, armor wet with sap. Their blades glowed with sickly light. Chaos filled the gallery. The Boneheart below seemed to answer, its dirge rising through the stones until the vault quaked. Murals cracked along their seams. Whole fragments of Brangus's youth peeled away, consumed by dust. Lemmy saw the steward backing toward a side passage, phial clutched to his chest. With sudden resolve, he drew a small flask from his belt, the last remnant of the ember brew he had saved since Mount Boogie days. He hurled it. The flask shattered against the basin, and for a breath, the air rang with warmth like ripe grain under sun. Golden light flooded the tripod, searing the streams clean. McCringle cried out as the whirlpool collapsed and color erupted in a wave. It swept across the vault, racing back up the ribbons toward the murals, painting them anew with furious speed. But the surge did not mend alone. It struck the Canker Knights, and their sap steel hissed, corroding into pitted rust. Armor clanged to the floor, empty of life, yet the victory cost dear. Marble popped, and fissures yawned across the dais as if the vault had been hollowed by grief. A roar like far thunder rolled beneath their feet. Dust rained, pillars moaned. McCringle lurched through the side arch, one arm shielding his eyes, still gripping the damaged file that now leaked a thin, smoking residue. BB spun after him, but a slab of ceiling crashed between, flinging her back. "Leave him," Brangus called, voice cracked with dust. "The castle fails." "We must flee or be entombed with our memories." They fled the gallery by the spiral stair, murals blazing with fresh life behind them, though many showed new scars where color had never returned. Stones trembled. Far below, the bone harp shrieked, strings snapping one by one. At last they burst into the upper halls, and there Captain T.C. Poole and Thorin Oak Kig met them, garbed for war, eyes wide at the tremors. "The sky skiff touched down not a moment too soon," Poole said, steadying Lemmy with one hand while the other hovered over his lute. "What root of ruin have you unearthed that the very walls quake in wrath?" Brangus lifted his sword, blade dark with fallen dust. "A root bound by roses and watered with stolen deeds, yet not sundered entire. McCringle has fled into deeper dark with a shard of that power. This storm will break harder before dawn." Then Thorin hefted a stout barrel etched with fresh runes. "If dawn must wrestle storm, let it do so with stout heart," he said. "Here is new brewed hope, and it seeks companions bold." They turned toward the courtyard where the wind roared like a beast denied. Above, lightning flickered in clouds that bore the hue of bruised violet, and somewhere in those clouds, the ravens cried in wheeling fury. The castle stones beneath their feet still trembled, but the murals in their silent gallery now shone with fragile light, refusing at the last to forget. Yet far below the keep, in passages unwalked by any honest foot, a steward's footsteps fled ever downward, and the file at his breast pulsed with a livid glow, as if it carried in its heart the echo of an unfinished song. Act 5. The Brewing of Hope. Storm clouds crouched upon the battlements, their bellies lit by hidden fire, and a wind like the breath of deep caverns coursed through every court of Brangus Castle. Yet within the armory of heralds, a gentler glow was kindling. Thorin Oak Keg, master cooper of Melody Mountains, had rolled his newest vessel beneath the high vault. Oak staves shone with fresh runes, and a scented warmth drifted from the bunghole, hinting of honeyed malt and summer orchards. Captain T.C. Poole knelt beside the barrel, head bent in quiet song. Each soft chord he drew from his silver-strung lute lingered in the air like the memory of sunrise. Lemmy Pemmy Thunderbrew stood opposite, steadying a shattered stave of the chronicle cask upon an anvil. Though the stave was cracked, glimmers yet pulsed in its grain, for the wood remembered every tale it had once held. BB hovered above them, scattering motes of sprite light into the shadows, while Broby Gearson watched the doors with axe ready. Lord Brangus alone remained absent, walking the ramparts to muster such defenders as plague and despair had spared. Thorin set his palm atop a rune near the cask's hoop. "Here sleeps the ember brew of awakening," he said. "It was racked only 7 days past and knows little of these sorrows. Yet poured true, it may still find the heart of the folk." Lemmy raised the broken stave. "Then let new song meet old memory. The chronicle wood may lend the brew a voice strong enough to shake the rot." They wedged the stave across the barrel's vent, sealed it with beeswax, and bound the joint in silver wire. BB traced the wire with fingers of light until each loop glowed amber. Poole's chords slipped into harmony with the humming wire, weaving music through oak and rune alike. Slowly the barrel stirred. A tremor passed along its staves. Runes brightened from drowsy red to fierce gold. From the tap, A single drop fell, splashing upon the flagstone. Where it landed, the gray dust receded, and a green shoot sprang up, tender yet unafraid of the dimness. Broby gave a low whistle. If one drop can wake stone, a cup might rouse a kingdom. Yet he had scarce spoken when a clang echoed in the corridor. Brangus strode in, rain glistening on his mail, face grim beneath the helm. "McCringle haunts the lower yard," he said, voice tight. "He rallies shadows against us. Already the outer wall listens to his worm tongue, and parts of it have begun to crumble." Poole rose, slinging the loot across his back. "Then we carry hope to the courtyard, before rot eats the threshold." Thorin drew a mallet, broke the seal, and filled a dozen stout flagons. Each he stoppered with cork and tied to his belt. Lemmy hefted the barrel itself onto a two-wheeled cart left from feasting days. Broby and Poole seized the shafts, and together they pushed into the stair hall, with BB darting ahead as scout. Rain beat through shattered clear stories, but the bruised glow pushed back the gloom. Wherever the cart passed, mold shrank. Roses paled from black to soft gray, and soldiers leaning sick against the wall lifted their heads in sudden wonder. Lemmy paused to pour sips for each. Faces quickened with color, coughs quieted, and in their eyes flickered the first sparks of will. Out in the grand courtyard, dusk churned like smoke. The broken fountain had become a pool of tar, and upon its rim stood dirty McCringle, cloak whipping in the gale. In his raised hand, the cracked phial glimmered with stolen colors. Behind him loomed the gates of the bailey, half open and weeping dust. Ranking before those gates, shoulder to hollow shoulder, stood a host of canker knights. Their helms were dull iron masks with no eyes, yet each sword burned black-green as bog fire. McCringle's voice carried through the rain. "You bring lantern light to a hearth long gone cold. Give me the barrel, and I shall spare the folk one more night beneath their tatters." Lemmy stepped forward, beard sodden, hands upon the tap. "Take one drop and await to mercy. The brew was not poured for tyranny." The steward sneered. "Mercy spoils swiftly in this age, but fear endures." He flung the phial skyward. It burst in a storm of color that rained down like shards of glass. Where each shard struck, roses withered into briars and cobbles cracked. Broby's roar answered the shatter. He charged, axe cleaving a path. Poole leapt upon the cart, strumming a wild clash of chords that rang as bright as bells. Soldiers who had tasted the brew lifted their pikes and surged behind him. BB rose high, her glow swelling until she shone like a shard of fallen star. She poured that radiance into the ember brew, and golden vapor spilled forth, covering the yard in sweet, warm haze. The canker knights faltered. Sap hissed where the haze touched. Thorin rolled barrel and cart straight toward the fountain. Lemmy loosed the tap and let the brew cascade into the tar. Instantly, the black pool seethed, its foul mirror broken by rings of light. Up from the fountain's heart rose a column of amber steam, twisting skyward. Rain hissed upon it and turned to scented mist. McCringle shrieked, retreating, but too late. Colors he had stolen fled his cloak like birds freed from a cage, swirling into the steam. With each fleeing ribbon his figure dimmed, robes bleaching to ashen rag. He stumbled toward the gate, calling for the knights, yet the haze clung to their armor, eating sapped steel to rust. Still the storm above thundered, and the bones of the castle groaned. Brangus forced a path to the cart, helped Thorin steady the dwindling barrel, and drank the last cup himself. Strength settled on him like forgotten mail, and from his blade leapt a clean white flame. All seemed one, yet at that very heartbeat, the flagstones split. The shattered harp beneath the keep answered with a final scream. Through the crack burst a hand wrought of black rosewood and dripping with cold light. Then came a second hand, and between them a visage emerged, half mask, half bloom. From it issued a voice unearthly yet familiar. Hope tastes sweet, it said, but the deep root drinks darker draughts. The column of steam faltered. BB's radiance flickered like a candle in a gust. Lemmy reached for the tap, but found the barrel empty, its magic spent. Pool's cord died on the strings as the air thickened with thorned shadow. Broby planted his feet at the rent stone, axe ready though the blade trembled. Brangus set flame-bright sword beside him. Thorin raised the splintered stave, fashioning it into cudgel. BB hovered close to Lemmy's brow, casting a fragile halo. Across the courtyard, McCringle, half phantom now, laughed with a voice hollow as an empty chalice. "So ends your cup of comfort," he called. "Drink now the bitter lees." Then the rosewood horror heaved itself full into the night, dragging a crown of thorns the height of 3 men. Clouds swallowed the moon, and the raven cries fell silent. In that silence, hope shone only in the eyes of those few who yet stood, barrel spent, but spirits unbroken, upon the ragged stones of a keep, caught between memory and ruin. Act 6. The Siege of Spirits. A hush fell upon the courtyard as the rosewood monstrosity hauled itself into the storm-lit air. Its body was wrought of thorned trunks grown to the likeness of a knight, yet the grain of the wood wept a sluggish black reason. In its breast glimmered the last shards of the stolen murals, turning slow as embers in a dying brazier. A crown of living briar surmounted the eyeless helm, and every barb dripped the same rank sap that fouled the canker knight's blades. Dirty McCringle, little more than a ragged phantom, lifted both arms in triumph. "Behold the heart root," he cried. "It was planted when pride first cracked these stones, and now it claims its harvest." Lightning burst above him. The rain became a volley of needles, for the drops that touched the heart root hardened to sleet and hissed away as steam. Damp gusts that had smelled of honey moments before now reeked of turned earth and graves left open. The muster of the bold Brangus planted his flame-bright sword at the breach where the stones had split. At his left stood Broby Gearson, axe rimed in rust, yet held steady. Thorin Oak Keg hefted the splintered stave of Lemmy's ruined cask, while Lemmy himself settled both hands upon the empty barrel cart, as though by sheer will he might draw one further draught from its staves. BB circled above, her dwindling light a lone star in the murk. Captain Poole placed his back to the shattered fountain, fingers poised upon the lute strings. Around them, the last of the garrison gathered, soldiers who had tasted hope from Thorn's flagons. Yet on the opposite side of the court, the untouched blackguard shuffled, helms bowing toward McCringle as if to a new master. Their hearts wavered between oaths sworn in sunlight and temptations offered in gloom. McCringle's whisper traveled the rain like a worm through apple flesh. "Lay down your arms and the fever will pass you by. Stand with these dreamers and share their doom." Several helms turned his way, yet before the first knee could bend, Poole struck a chord clean as dawn. The note rang off the keep and rolled through the ranks like a tide of waking memory. Where it passed, the soldiers recalled bread shared beside quiet hearths, remembered children who waited beyond the plague. Many straightened. Some raised blades toward the heart root. The first assault. The heart root answered with a roar that was neither wood nor wind. thorn limbs crashed into the flagstones, shattering them. At the monster's summons, the fallen sap of canker knights oozed together and rose anew, reshaping into warped warriors whose armor smoked where Thorin's brew had touched. They surged. Broby met the foremost with a bellow. His axe clove a knight from helm to hauberk. Sap spattered, sizzled, and cooled to brittle ash. Lemmy flung the empty barrel upon another, crushing helm and cuirass alike. When the stave shattered, Thorin seized both halves and wielded them like cudgels, runes flashing whenever wood struck foul steel. Bibi darted between foes, her glow flaring each time dark sap sought to cling to dwarf mail or mortal flesh, yet every burst dimmed her wings. At last she hovered before the heartroot itself, tracing sigils of pure gold upon the air. Light bit deep into bark, and the monster reeled, but with the blow a shower of black thorns struck the sprite. Her radiance flared white, then guttered. She faltered, falling like a wounded moth toward the ruined fountain. Pool's arm swept out. With a quick step, he caught her in a fold of cloak, then set her gently upon the fountain's rim. His lute hand trembled not from fear, but from wrath. He turned back to the fray, head bowed, and drew from the strings a melody none there had heard. It was a camp song of far-off thunderbrew feasts, yet beneath its grace burned a fury, fierce as warfire. The very rain seemed to dance to its rhythm, and where droplets caught the music they shone like sparks. Turning of the Black Guard. The Black Guard, hearts still wavering, heard the song and felt the flame within its notes. One by one their spears lowered from trembling readiness to measured salute. The captain of their company strode forward, helm cast off to bear a scarred brow. "Lord Brangus," he cried, "our oaths remain yours if your cause still beats for the living." Brangus lifted his sword in answer. A cheer rose, thin but unbroken. The guard wheeled against the canker knights, shield walls clashing in a flare of sparks and shivered sap. Though many fell, the line held. McCringle shrieked as the tide turned. He flung the tatters of his cloak into the air, and from them swarmed shadows, each shaped like a rose petal, but edged with razors of night. The storm of petals whirled toward Pool, seeking the heart of the song. Pool struck a chord so sudden and sharp that strings snapped, yet the note blossomed into a shield of sound. The deadly petal shattered upon it, dissolving to wind-borne dust. The cup refilled. Yet victory hung by a thread. The heartroot still towered unbowed, and Bibi's light guttered low. Thorin knelt beside her, tears lost in the rain. Lemmy saw and felt his own courage waver. Then his hand closed upon something cold within his pouch. He drew forth the last unbroken hoop from the chronicle cask, a simple ring of silver which had once bound tales together. He pressed it to Bibi's brow. "Little sister of light, lend this ring a story worth the telling, and it will pour hope once more." Bibi's wings twitched. A single spark leapt from her fingertips into the silver. The ring glowed. Lemmy slipped it over the barrel's tap pipe, sealing splintered seams with a flash of molten light. Rain hissed against fresh oak. From within the empty staves rose a hum, low at first, then round as a chant of homestead hearths. A golden droplet formed at the tap and fell into Lemmy's palm. It shone like the first drop ever coaxed from the ember brew. With reverence, he lifted the drop to his lips, and as it touched, he spoke a brief prayer. The droplet became a breath of gold mist, swirling around him, then drifting over Thorin, Broby, Pool, and Brangus. The mist spread, fine as morning sun rays through orchard leaves. Wherever it settled, wounds knit, breath steadied and eyes grew bright. Broby roared anew. Thorn rose, brandishing his twin staves that now shone like tempered bronze. Poole drew a spare string from a hidden pocket, laced it swift across the lute, and struck fresh chords. Brangus strode forward, sword blazing so fiercely that raindrops flashed to steam before they kissed the blade, breaking the root. Together the five pressed upon the heart root. Axe bit bark, staves battered thorn, song scoured dark sap from wounded grain, and the Lord's flame carved a path toward the monster's core. At last Lemmy hurled the reforged barrel ring like a discus. It sliced through briar crown and lodged deep within the monster's breast, right where the shards of stolen memories still spun. For a heartbeat the world held its breath. Then the ring flared brilliant gold. Memories of past valor, once caged, poured outward in a flood of light. They flashed across the courtyard, into the murals above, into the hearts of every soldier still standing. The heart root staggered, sap gushing in dark torrents, roots thrashing like dying serpents. McCringle gave a cry, half despair, half rage. He ran, cloak flapping toward the shimmering ravine where the earth had cracked, calling upon shadows to hide him. The heart root, mortally wounded yet unbroken in will, lurched after like a fallen king seeking final refuge. Its roots speared the ground, splitting flagstones as it dragged itself and the fleeing steward toward the yawning cleft. Brangus would have pursued, but the great tower behind him groaned. Stones slipped from their courses. The battlements began to lean. With a shout, he ordered a retreat to the inner ward. The defenders obeyed, bearing their wounded. Broby and Thorn dragged the empty barrel cart, for its wood still glimmered with promise. Poole bore BB close, her light faint, yet steady. From the brink of the courtyard, they looked back. The heartroot reached the edge of the abyss and toppled, clutching McCringle in thorny embrace. Both vanished into the chasm. A gust of wind, cold and rank, swept upward, carrying a distant echo of McCringle's last scream. Then silence claimed the storm, and the rain slackened to a weary drizzle. Aftermath at dusk. The keep stood, though wounded. Towers leaned, walls cracked, yet the roses at the gate glimmered a pale red once more rather than black. In the quiet that followed, Lemmy set the battered barrel upright. The staves no longer hummed, yet the wood smelled of summer again. Brangus looked upon his people, their number sorely thinned, yet flushed with a hope that had been absent for many moons. He sheathed his sword and spoke. This day we have won only the first thrust of a longer war. The heartroot has fallen, yet its echo lies deep, and McCringle's schemes may outlive his breath. Gather strength, for ere the next moon is full, we must ascend into that ravine and finish the work. Thorin nodded, tapping the barrel with care. Then let us see what song of courage can be coaxed from these staves once they rest beneath kinder skies. Poole released a breath, turning his gaze to the rent earth. The tale dives deeper, friends, but tales unfinished still yearn for endings bright. We shall follow. BB opened her eyes, faint light flickering. Then fly we must, she whispered. For in the depths the castle's shadow has only begun to dream. Thus closed the siege of spirits. Night crept across the Funklands, yet the torches of Brangus Castle burned on, and within their light, heroes planned a journey that would lead beneath broken stone, through caverns where memory and shadow lay knotted like roots of the same thorny rose. Act 7. The Mirror of Regret. The rains passed away at last, leaving a hush broken only by streams that trickled from shattered gutters. Pale light seeped through torn clouds, yet the sun itself seemed unwilling to gaze upon the wounded keep. In the courtyard, the defenders stacked splintered pikes and gathered their fallen, speaking in low voices, for each man and woman felt that the battle's root still thrummed beneath their feet. It was Lemmy Pemmy Thunderbrew who found Lord Brangus alone upon the terrace above the grand stair. The Lord's mail was tarnished where sap had scorched the rings, and his sword lay across his knees. Beyond the parapet, the shimmering ravine gaped, black and bottomless, veiled now in wreaths of steam that rose from the Heartroot's tomb. "My lord," said Lemmy, setting aside his helm, "you carry a weight that no helm can soften. Before the morrow we must lift it, else the burden will bow every soul who stands beneath your walls." Brangus did not meet the dwarf's eyes. "We slew the wood ghost and broke McCringle's snare, yet I feel no triumph, only empty hollows."
And broke McCringle's stare. Yes, welcome in, Falconeers. We're listening to Betrayal at Brangus Keep, Book 1. I need to queue up Book 2. Need to put a soundscape in Book 2. But then we're also working on our new World Forge 3D web tool that I have built / am building. Let's listen to some tunes now as we're chilling. Much better, much better. Check it out, it's on tcpool.com. Very cool free tool. And also the new Patreon that comes with extra features in the World Forge 3D. Woot. Working on fixing something though right now. KPP 101.
Well, it's the Daily Braille, the Daily Braille, the newspaper that knows you all too well. Page after page, delivered right to your door. It's the Daily Braille, now let us show you some more.
Welcome to Funkatron.
What the
Daily
fuck?
Braille, the newspaper that knows you all too well. Page after page, delivered right to your door. It's the Daily Braille, now let us show you some more. I'll let us show you some more. I'll let us show you some more. Chitty, bow. I should be rolling and right. I should be stirring the smile. Oh, I should be me. Oh, I should be rich and I should be too hard displeased. Or should we stand to be keen?
Hopefully this version works
But I
of the
should be
code here.
loud. You treasure me long and I need. Orders alone to the only thing, and our letters alone to the nail. But I'm on the beat top till my heart is broken and waiting around when I pray. Well, it's the Daily Braille, the Daily Braille, the newspaper that knows you all too well. Page after page, deliver right to your door. It's the Daily Braille, now let us show you some more. I'll let us show you some more. I'll let us show you some more.
What a wonderful jingle. KPP 101.
The Quiet Storm.
I like that one. The quiet storm. Cats, Jazzy's coming over here and tooting. Little tootie. It's really cool, this map to globe thingy mabob. I wonder if I can get a window over here for y'all, or if it would be. Let's test the waters, why not? It might make this computer dookie itself, but we'll try. It's not that bad now. Hey, it works. this looks cool. KPP 101. The Quiet. No, we're not listening to this one. No. Even though I will. Much better. KPP 101. The World Forge. Go use it. For free. Little jazz, my little baby jazz. What y'all know about the coconut cream? The coconut cream. Get that shit out of here. And now, we hope that this is fixed. And now I put in the new HTML and pray to the HTML gods. We might have a fix, ladies and gentlemen. The live version KPP 101, The Quiet Storm.
Mama, 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 bug fever's running everywhere. Yeah, mama, 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 you can smell it in the air. You know we've got to find a way to get bug fever the fuck out of here today. Oh, my father saw you in Boomtown just the other day. Oh, now my father is in a great haze. You got bug fever the other day. I think you sat there and called me gay. He's telling lies right before my eyes. Don't call me gay if I haven't called you gay. Then talk to me so you can see that I don't like those big juicy boners. I keep forgetting that I'm not gay anymore. I keep forgetting when I see those big boners and those bulging, glistening in the sun. Ask myself why can't I be gay no more? Oh yeah, I keep forgetting that I'm not gay anymore. I keep forgetting that I don't like those juicy boners. I keep forgetting that I'm not gay anymore. I keep forgetting. It's close to midnight. Something's getting buck wild in the dark. And all the moonlight, you see that it's me. I'm so buck wild. You try to cream, oh, but that old cream you wrote is so mistaken. You couldn't believe, oh, this dirty McCringle looks you right between the eyes. Your soul's on fire, 'cause this is you. You hear the Kringle snap, and now there's nowhere left to run. You feel a cold hand and wonder if it belongs to Dirty McCringle. Plot twist, you can't believe this shit is so buck wild. Dirty McCringle, he's right there looking at you up inside, and now you're out of time. 'Cause Dirty McCringle, that Kringle now, oh no, it's so scary that Dirty McCringle wants to eat you in his eyes. And McCringle, that Dirty McCringle, fighting for your life next to the Dirty McCringle. He's out to get you. 'Cause if he gets you, you're dead, you're dead. You've passed away to the great yon, yon, where skeletons play. The bones they dance, the spirits sing glee, where a noob like you deserves to be. If you played better, if you played right, you wouldn't be here, a dead noob's delight. You're dead, you've passed away. You're dead, you passed away to the great yon, yon, where skeletons play. The bones they dance, the spirits in glee, where a noob like you deserves to be. If you played better, if you played right, you wouldn't be here, a dead noob's delight. You're dead, you've passed away. You're dead, you passed away to the great yon, yon, where skeletons play. The bones they dance, the spirits in glee, where a noob like you deserves to be. If you played better, if you played right, you wouldn't be here, a dead noob's delight. You're dead, you've passed away. If you played better, if you played right, you wouldn't be here, a dead noob's delight. You're dead, you're dead, well, dead, you're dead, well, dead, you've passed away. Ba, 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 ba. wild. Oh, I will go buck wild if you went buck wild with me tonight. I will go buck wild with delight. Old Pappy found you. I couldn't believe it was you. That's when I went buck wild all the longest time.
Try to take through your trial. What you want to say now? I want you to be loud. I want you to be body or drown. For the brothers just want to be free.
watching glistening in the sun. Ask myself why can't I be gay no more? Oh, I keep forgetting that I'm not gay anymore. I keep forgetting that I don't like those juicy boners. I keep forgetting that I'm not gay anymore. I keep forgetting.
increase. So is this our land or is this our lease? Papa says, son, it's the land of the free. As he broke his back trying to make ends meet, you say that you care, well I was unaware. And you say that you care, well I was unaware. 'Cause all you do is push, pull, tear, but can't stretch it any further. Push, pull, tear. 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 Push, pull, tug. Ooh. Push, pull, tug.
It's time to get up and start your day. It's time to get moving on your way. My bed keeps on calling me to stay. I see my bills that I gotta pay. So I'll get up, get up, get up, get up and go. I will get up, get up, get up, get up and go. I will get up, get up, get up, get up and go. I will get up.
with a buck wild twist. In the TC Falcons cantina can't resist. Cause she's free falling into John Quan. In a galaxy of flavor, the night's gone. Sipping on the stars, buck wild, under the moon so bright. In the cosmic haze, buck wild delight. In the cosmic haze, a buck wild delight. He's a good man, sipping John Quan, down in the old holler, booty cobbler gone yon. If he winks twice, you'll know, through fire and snow, he'll climb to the top of that mountain, brother. Cause they're free falling into John Quan. In a galaxy of flavor, the night's gone. Sipping on the stars, buck wild, under the moon so bright. In the cosmic haze, a buck wild delight. In the cosmic haze, a buck wild delight.
Thank you.